With the Hogwarts Legacy reveal, we got a look at some returning characters like Professor Binns, Peeves, and Nearly Headless Nick. I am interested in new characters that were introduced and how they may relate to Harry Potter characters that we already know. So first up is Eleazar Fig. Now, when I first heard his name, I was certain that he would have to be related to Arabella Fig. Arabella Fig is Harry's neighbor on Prewett Drive. She watches over him. She is also a squib, meaning that she is from a magical family but has no magical powers herself. So I really like the idea that Eleazar Fig could be an ancestor of hers, perhaps a grandfather or great-grandfather. Unfortunately, the PlayStation blog spells Fig's name with only one G, whereas Arabella's Fig's name is spelled with two G's. So it's possible that perhaps Eleazar's name was spelled with a typo, and it is meant to have a second G there, or perhaps they're not related at all. It does seem strange to me that you would have such a unique last name and not have them be related, but perhaps they aren't. We don't know, and only time will tell. Next up, everyone is in love with the new herbology professor. And of course, the first thing that everyone noticed was her bright red hair. Now, the PlayStation blog for Hogwarts Legacy mentioned that we may see a Weasley or two in the game. So a lot of people have suggested that our herbology professor may be a Weasley. And the only issue taken with that is that if there was a Professor Weasley at Hogwarts, surely Ron or someone in Ron's family would have mentioned that. So I rather like the theory that she is actually a Prewett. The Prewett are a family of pure blood traders like the Weasleys who were almost wiped out during the first Wizarding War against Voldemort. The only remaining member of their line that we know of is Molly Weasley. Her maiden name is in fact Prewett. So it is possible that our herbology professor is a Professor Prewett and a grandmother or great-grandmother of Molly Weasley. Speaking of Weasleys, there are two clips of red-haired students that may be Weasleys or Prewetts. As to who they might be, we do know that Arthur Weasley's father was named Septimus Weasley. Now, we don't have any specific dates for when he lived, but we do know that he was married to Cedrella Black. She's believed to have been born between 1915 and 1919. So assuming that Septimus was born around the same time, he would be too young to take place in Hogwarts Legacy. So it is likely that if either of these two students are a Weasley, they are in fact Arthur Weasley's yet unnamed grandfather. Next we have Phineas Nigellus Black. Phineas Nigellus was known as the most unpopular headmaster of Hogwarts. He was a member of Slytherin, was known as a pureblood supremacist, and his portrait in Harry Potter and the Order of Phoenix states, "Never try to understand students. They hate it. They would much rather be tragically misunderstood, wallow in self-pity." His timeline fits very well with the late 1800s timeline that the game is set in. He was born in 1847. He died in 1925 at the age of 78. So it is quite likely, or at least seems quite likely, that he is the headmaster of Hogwarts during the time that Hogwarts Legacy takes place. And that opens up some opportunities for some contention within our time at Hogwarts itself, not just with the Goblin Rebellion happening outside of Hogwarts, but perhaps some political issues happening within Hogwarts itself while we are there taking classes. Some fans have speculated that 1890 may be too early for Phineas Black to be headmaster, and so some think he may actually be our potions professor, with ambitions to one day be headmaster. Regardless, having Phineas Black be a part of Hogwarts Legacy is sure to be interesting. Now, speaking of Goblin Rebellion, I was initially excited by Ranrok because his name, I got confused with Ragnuk the First, who created the Sword of Gryffindor, and I thought the two might be related, but their names aren't anywhere similar. So sadly, we don't know anything about Ranrok, but we do have the name of Victor Rookwood, the Dark Wizard, that Ranrok is working with. Now, we do know the name Rookwood from Augustus Rookwood. This is a Death Eater whose name appears throughout the books. He's not really personified in any way, so we don't know much about him other than he was part of the first Wizarding War. He was arrested and put in Azkaban and then broken out of Azkaban when Voldemort got all of his Death Eaters out. He was present in the Department of Mysteries in Order of the Phoenix when the group goes there to rescue Sirius, and he is present at the Battle of Hogwarts. So there's not much known about the Rookwoods, but this is an interesting opportunity with Victor Rookwood to perhaps flesh out the Rookwood family that has clearly produced a long line of dark wizards. While we're also looking at the timeline, Albus Dumbledore was born in 1881, and our game takes place in 1890. Now, Dumbledore didn't attend Hogwarts until 1892. Assuming that 1890 is the year that the game takes place, we are not likely to see Dumbledore at Hogwarts. There is some speculation that perhaps the game will take place over multiple years. I don't think that that's likely personally. The Harry Potter games have always taken place over 1 year, and I think that makes sense for our time at Hogwarts to be contained in a 1-year story. However, if we are to see sequels to Hogwarts Legacy, perhaps we will see 11-year-old Dumbledore come to Hogwarts and be a student. We would, of course, be 7th year, would be graduating from Hogwarts by the time Dumbledore enters, but there is a potential there for Dumbledore to make an appearance. Since we are going to be exploring beyond Hogwarts and into the hamlets around the Hogwarts area, maybe we will find the Dumbledore family out somewhere and have a nice cameo. It's possible. Who knows? It's fun to speculate. Last but certainly not least, we have Merlin. Now, during the Hogwarts Legacy State of Play, where they mentioned that there were puzzles hidden around the area built by Merlin himself, my initial thought was, oh, this is just a sort of throw out name that gives a reason for why these puzzles exist. Is who put these strange puzzles that we keep discovering around Hogwarts? Why are they here? Well, Merlin put them here. It just seemed like a throwaway explanation. However, the YouTube channel Wizard PhD did a video on why they think Merlin is the key to Hogwarts Legacy. Portkey Games created the Harry Potter mobile game Hogwarts Mystery, and this is a game that I'm very interested in story-wise, but being the nature of a mobile game and the usual slog of collecting energy and then spending energy and then waiting hours and hours to collect more energy, I lost interest in it and didn't get far through it. However, Hogwarts Mystery involves a collection of cursed vaults beneath Hogwarts that have something to do with ancient magic. In the game, Merlin's portrait can be found. warning students that the curse placed on the vaults was punishment for abandoning ancient magic. Ancient magic is a topic that we don't know a lot about, except that it is magic that exists in the nature of the world. It was not created by wizards the way that modern spells or potions were created by wizards. Ancient magic has to do with the protection that Harry's mother bestowed upon him through her love. Ancient magic is also studied in the Department of Mysteries, where they study the magic of time and death and topics such as that. Hogwarts Castle is also known as a stronghold of ancient magic, as actually stated by Albus Dumbledore when he explains to Harry that the reason he didn't want to employ Tom Riddle as a teacher was he was worried about what mysteries he would be able to unravel within the school itself. The exact origin of the cursed vaults has been forgotten. There are theories that they were created by the Hogwarts founders themselves, with Merlin's involvement in ancient magic and his extraordinary magical abilities does lend credence to the theory that perhaps the founders of Hogwarts originally were interested in teaching ancient magic as a topic at Hogwarts, and eventually this attributed to the split of Salazar's Slytherin breaking off from the others, as perhaps the study of ancient magic was deemed too dangerous. We do know that Merlin himself was a Slytherin, and that he may have been personally taught by Salazar Slytherin. With the inclusion of Headmaster Phineas Nigellus Black, another notable Slytherin, one starts to theorize if this is going to be a story of Slytherin and their desire to re-establish and understand ancient magic in the wizarding world. And that brings us to the player character. Who is the player character? What is our backstory? Where do we come from? All this mystery surrounding ancient magic. Some have wondered, are we part of this pure blood family? Are we Slytherin's heir? All of that is still up in the air. We don't really know. It seems likely from a gameplay standpoint that we would be a Muggle-born and know nothing of the magical world. The PlayStation blog mentions that we will get to experience what it was like for Harry starting a new wizard's school and knowing no one at all. And like Harry, we will be a bit of a celebrity from the outset due to the fact that we are starting as a 5th year and because we survived, and it is cut off exactly as to what that specific event is, but it may have been pretty horrible. As it's seen in the state of play, the player character is able to engage with Thestrals, which means we have seen death happen. So whatever this cataclysmic event that I can only assume has to do with ancient magic, being that we are starting Hogwarts in our 5th year, we were believed to be without magical talent. And now we have somehow awoken our magical powers. This is a pretty big deal. Maybe we are meant to follow in Merlin's footsteps. And that is all that I have for now. Definitely let me know your thoughts in the comments. I hope you are as excited as I am. I hope you all have a great day. Remember, trans women are women, and thank you for watching.